Around this wonderful room, and I know we'll have a chance to see some of the other rooms in this state-of-the-art Boys and Girls Club, number 2000 Boys and Girls Club. I thought to myself, I see all that steel, I see all that cinder block work and electrical work and air conditioning work, and it takes about this much stuff to make a jail. It's about what it would take. And that's what we've been doing too much of in recent years. We've been using this kind of material and treasure to build jails to put our children in eventually. No other civilized nation in the world has as many people in jail as we have in jail. So we need more mentors. We need more places like this where the community comes together and says to the young people of the community, and especially in this neighborhood here, we care about you. Because you see, what these young people are seeing, not just a nice place to play basketball or in the computer room to run a software program. They don't see steel and cinder blocks alone. What they see are people who care about them. What they see are people who love them. What they see are people who have expectations of them and about them and will not let them fail. We do not have anything more important to do than to protect youngsters like this and put them on the road to success. The choice is very simple. We either build our children or we build more jails. It's time to stop building jails and get back to what we know how to do as Americans, and that's to build our children.
Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. That's quite profound. See Colin Powell talk about building, boys and girls clubs instead of building jails. That's what we need more of. These are important times where we see our kids being more directed towards the prisons. We have shows on it all the time. And that's my favorite charity, the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem. We have a new building going up on 145th Street between Amsterdam and Broadway, and we're looking for donations. So you saw the presentation. Stay tuned for the more about the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to have them on the show, and the executive director and the CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Harlem. Welcome to the show, Graham Weatherspoon.
Why, thank you.
And as usual, we're going to talk about what's wrong with policemen?
What?
Trying to find a way to prevent them putting kids in jail. And a lot of the abuse is going on in the city housing. You were going to bring a guest on today talking about an old case, 21 years old.
Yeah.
But murder has no statute of limitation.
Right.
And this cop shot a kid, 13 at the time.
He was 13, yeah.
And he had a yellow tip toy gun.
Yeah, it was actually a plastic rifle.
Plastic rifle.
Toy rifle about that long.
Right.
With an orange tip. Very clear, nothing to be mistaken as a weapon.
Right.
If you saw him, you wouldn't be threatened, you wouldn't feel threatened. As a matter of fact, we were in downtown Brooklyn with that same item, walking by some police officers, and they weren't concerned.
Right.
But unfortunately, the officer was never charged with a crime. We are going to have, it's the case of Nicholas Hayward Jr., who was shot on Baltic Street in Brooklyn, 21, almost going on 22 years now.
Right.
He was shot, the bullet went right through him. He and his friends were playing in a stairwell in the housing project, and a housing cop stepped into the stairwell and drew his gun and said, "What's going on?" He said, "We're just playing cops and robbers." And the boy threw down the plastic rifle, and the officer shot him. That officer, George, retired last December from the police department. But it was a case.
He's not immune from prosecution, is he?
No. No, the tragedy here, the double tragedy is that this little boy was shot. His friends were terrified. And the case was never presented to the grand jury. by then Brooklyn DA Charles Hines.
Okay.
So it's another case of egregious miscarriage of justice by Charles Hines, and we're seeing case after case coming up in Brooklyn where Ken Thompson is unraveling the nightmares of people's lives because of what Charles Hines did or failed to do. And Nicholas Haywood may be with us next week or the week after. You know, I don't want to go deep into the case. I've been working on a coalition regarding this case, and I don't want to give the whole story out before he gets here. But there are a number.
Well, you know what we're going to do? What brought this case to mind was Akai Gurley and that project, and here's where we got a conviction. So what I'm going to do for the public here is to give you a little rundown of what happened here. So run the Akai Gurley piece, and we see how this officer had been on the force.
2 years, I think.
2 years.
Not even 2 years.
Not even 2 years. Yeah. So he's really a rookie. But he supposedly turned the door knob with the gun in his hand, and the gun went off. So he claimed. But you'll see the claims and reaction to the court case also in this piece that we're about to run. Let's run the next piece for him.
The shooting of Akai Gurley by New York police officer Peter Liang happened in a Brooklyn housing project at around 11 p.m. Gurley and his girlfriend, Melissa Butler, had left her apartment to find the elevator not working properly, and so entered the 7th floor stairwell. At the same time, Officer Liang and his partner, Sean Landau, were on the 8th floor patrolling the building. Just as Gurley entered the stairwell 1 floor below, the gun accidentally discharged when Liang pushed open the door with his pistol in hand. The bullet traveled 12 feet down to the 7th floor landing, ricocheted off the wall, and struck Gurley in the chest. Not knowing he had been shot, Gurley ran down 2 flights of stairs before collapsing on the 5th floor landing.
A scared rookie cop recklessly shot Akai Gurley for no good reason in the stairwell of a Brooklyn housing project because he violated his hallowed duty as a police officer, prosecutors said Tuesday in scathing closing arguments. Assistant District Attorney Joseph Alexis dismissed Officer Peter Liang's defense that his gun went off accidentally and said he gave his fellow cops a bad name.
This is not an accident. This is recklessness. This is an officer who couldn't properly handle his gun, and because he got startled, and because he wasn't properly holding his gun, he fired his gun. And the gun did not just go off. This officer took his finger off the frame of the gun, if it was ever there. He put his finger onto the trigger. He pointed the gun directly in the direction where the sound was, and he fired. And he shot. And the shot that he fired hit off the wall. It's no accident that it hit off the wall, steps away from where Akai Gurley stood. It's no accident that that bullet that ripped through his heart landed in his liver and killed him.
Liang, 28, faces up to 15 years in prison firing into a darkened stairwell of the Pink Houses in East New York on November 20, 2014. The bullet hit a wall, ricocheted, and went into the heart and liver of Gurley, an unarmed, innocent man. In his closing remarks, Liang's attorney, Robert E. Brown, said that the spooked cop had not immediately rushed to help Gurley because he hadn't realized he'd been shot.
And you have to say to yourself, is it a substantial risk that this bullet, pointed at a 5-inch thick cinder block wall, would ricochet off the wall and strike somebody in the darkness that you don't even know is there, apparently as he's turning the corner at the precise moment where you're going to hit him and the bullet's going to kill him. A second earlier, it misses him. A second later, it misses him, right? That precise moment, the bullet has to strike and ricochet off of the wall. Is that a substantial risk? Is there a substantial risk that there would even be a person in that darkness going down to the 7th floor? and I've beaten this to death. Both officers, Liang and Landau, testified they rarely encounter anybody in the stairs, right?
Interesting. So you being a police officer, where are the flaws here?
Well, I like what ADA Alexis had to say. He said this is not an accident.
Right.
This is something that never should have happened.
Right.
Lakai Gurley was not trained to walk through a residential building.
But he's a housing cop, right?
Housing projects are residential buildings.
Well, aren't they trained to walk through
He
the
was
building?
not trained to walk through the building with a gun in his hand
okay.
when you don't have a police condition. They always try and have the public, they want the public to believe that the job is so dangerous that when you have incompetency, it's excusable. It's not excusable.
So they should never have their weapons out?
Never should have the weapon out.
Okay.
If the staircase, and I say if, because everybody says a dim lit staircase. If the staircase was dimly lit, what should be in your hand is a flashlight, not a gun. Number two, there was no police condition. A light out is a safety condition. People need to see in a dark stairway as they're going up and down
What
the
was
stairs.
his excuse for having his gun out?
There was no reason to have the gun out.
Well, what was his excuse for having
I don't know
his
what
gun
excuse he gave.
out? Okay.
They're trying to say that it's at the officer's discretion. No. And I'm going to fast forward it to what happened last night when a detective was shot in the back, in his shoulder, while they were making a drug arrest in Bushwick. His partner.
Last night?
Right. They were on both sides of the car. And his partner had his weapon out. The guy moved the vehicle forward, either forward or backward. His partner's gun discharged and struck him on the other side. Now,
Oh, man.
and this is not the first time a police officer has shot another police officer.
Wow.
This is total incompetence. Because you have to consider when
So why
Desmond
did
Robinson...
he have his number? Why did he have his gun out?
All right. You need to have, number one, if your weapon is in your hand, it's not supposed to be on the trigger. It's supposed to be on the trigger housing, outside of the trigger. All right? The car moved forward and the gun went off. That means his finger was on the trigger while he was standing there next to the
pointing
to
towards
the
his
motorist.
partner.
He had, yeah, you don't point across through the vehicle. He had the gun. It was aimed at the guy in the passenger seat.
I see, I see.
He didn't hit the guy in the passenger seat that I know of, but he struck his partner in the shoulder. Now,
Okay.
this is poor tactics, all right? You don't put your finger on the trigger. Even if the vehicle jerks, if your finger is where it's supposed to be, which is on the trigger housing outside of the trigger, the gun's not going to go off. Lakai Gurley, again, he had his finger on the trigger.
Right.
Guns don't go off. You have to pull the trigger, as ADA Alexis said. I've been carrying weapons for over 40 years. I never had a gun go
But
off.
do you remember the animation that they had where
Yeah.
they had the flashlight in the right hand and the gun was in the left hand?
Right.
He twisted the door with his left hand.
Right. You don't open a door with you don't turn the doorknob with a
With
gun
your
in
gun
your
in your
hand.
hand.
All right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's no reason to have a gun in your hand. All right. Now let's look at this. The hallway is lit. The hallway is lit. So how does he know that the stairway is dark until you open the door? How do you know that the stairway is dark? You're walking
You
in the
look through the
hallway.
window and you see a dark stair.
If there's a window there, I don't know.
Most projects have a window in it.
Now,
You see it.
getting back to the tactics, the defense attorney is saying, given a second here, given a second there, a second earlier, a second later, he would have missed. The fact of the matter is, you must assume that somebody is going to be in the staircase because people use the staircases, especially when the elevator is not working.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So you must
Especially
make
when
that
you're-
assumption that you are going to meet people on the staircase while you're patrolling.
Why were they patrolling like this anyway?
It's called vertical patrols. They
With
wanted
two
the
of them?
cops to go up to the top floor, and then you come down the staircases and check the staircases. Make sure guys are not hanging out in the staircases.
But the
smoking or
elevator
anything.
wasn't working.
Elevator wasn't working. I don't know when it stopped. But remember, they were on the 7th floor, which is the top floor in that building.
But, you know, the cops were on the 8th floor.
8th floor?
8th floor.
Is it an 8th story?
Okay.
Okay.
That's what they said in the piece.
But whether they walked up or took the elevator, I don't know. But we do know that the elevator was not working when Gurley and his girlfriend went to get the elevator. So if they're doing a vertical patrol and they're checking the staircases coming down, the only thing that's supposed to be in your hand is a flashlight.
Really?
If you're so scared that you need to pull your gun out because it's dark, you need to stay home with mommy, okay?
But they showed both officers with that.
Both officers. That's what they showed. We really can't, I don't know, I didn't sit in on the case, on the trial. I don't know if both officers had their weapons out and flashlights. Another thing is, you're trained not to be walking with a gun and be in your hand, because if you stumble and fall, the weapon's going to go off. If you have your hand on the trigger, you have reflex actions that you take. You stumble and fall, your body jerks. If your finger's on the trigger, the round is going to go off. In a confined area such as a staircase, you don't know where that bullet is going to go. It's not going to go a block or 2 blocks down range.
What
it's in a
happened
confined
to the
area.
officers from last night? I'm curious.
It was a drug arrest. It was a buy and bust. The officer was shot in the shoulder. He's going to be okay.
Okay.
But in that incident, they're going to look to see where his partner was. We do know that the guy in the vehicle moved the car forward, all right, and the guys were trying to get away.
Okay.
But the problem there is that his partner had his finger on the trigger,
Okay.
and granted, you're working narcotics, propensity for guns is
Right.
high,
Yeah.
all right? But even at that, his finger was on the trigger. If the guy sitting in the seat had even moved a certain way, he might have shot him accidentally.
Of course.
And of course, he would say it's accidental.
Of course.
So we had an officer, a Sergeant Brown, who was shot on Clifton Place in Brooklyn, near Grand Avenue, years ago. And the police department reported that he had been shot by a drug dealer. He was shot
By his partner?
by the guy on his own team, shot him in the back. All right?
Kill him?
No,
No,
he survived.
luckily. Okay.
But the police department reported that the drug dealer shot him.
Yeah, of
because
course.
they wound up killing the drug dealer.
Ah.
They chased him down the block
Okay.
and shot him. So I had to do an expose on how Howard Safer and DCPI was lying to the press, because this is what
But
the
see,
Daily News
nobody
had
really
reported.
cares about the drug dealers, do they?
They don't, but the fact is that you don't have the right to kill somebody
Just because he's a drug dealer.
just because he's a drug dealer. Thank you.
Right.
Because we've seen cases where people were tried, convicted, sentenced, served time, and were innocent of the crimes they were charged with.
Yeah.
That's why I cannot go with the death penalty, because there are too many people in prison for crimes they did not commit.
Right. You know, I want to cover a little bit about the families of a lot of these victims. You know, we know Eric Gardner and his family suffering from a senseless murder. I mean, that's the most senseless thing I've seen.
And we
that
have
was-
video on that murder.
And that was from selling Lucy cigarettes.
And he wasn't
I
even
mean,
selling at the time.
Right. But that just goes to show you can't argue when you're innocent. You can't-
There's no litigation on the sidewalk. Constance Graham, Ramarley Graham's mother, spoke outside of federal court yesterday. I spoke briefly with Royce Russell today. The Justice Department is not going to entertain a civil rights case in that murder.
And we have video of you in the bathroom. I remember that one.
Yeah, we had gone to the house right after the shooting.
Yeah.
Ramarley was shot. He was bending down when he was shot. He was not standing upright. He was bending down. And the bullet struck his left clavicle and went on a downward angle, and I think it went through his liver to the right side of his body, from the left side to the right side.
So he's trying to flush some smoke down the
The
toilet?
cop is saying, but nobody knows. All we do know is that he wasn't standing upright by the trajectory of the round through his body.
But he's in his own house,
He's in his own house.
bathroom.
They're saying that he was being pursued. He was not being pursued. Ramarley came from the west end of the block.
Right.
The police came from the eastern end of the block.
And we have
He
this
was
on
walking.
video too.
He's walking. And again, the police department, Ray Kelly, showed a video of somebody other than Ramarley running on the street. It wasn't even Ramarley
I didn't
Graham.
see that one.
Yes, it was a guy in a white jacket. Ramarley was not wearing a white jacket. But they said this is video of Ramarley running. That was a lie, so we debunked that. Ramarley walks to his house. He hears somebody shouting. He looks over his right shoulder. He keeps walking because he's minding his business. He puts the
walks
key
to
in the
his
door,
house.
walks inside. And the cop runs up from the other direction, comes into the yard and starts kicking on the door. It took a few minutes before they even got in the house. So this is not direct pursuit. It's not the exigent circumstance where you're chasing a criminal who's committed a crime. They said they believed that he had a gun when they saw him 5 blocks away. Well, if you saw somebody 5 blocks away, why would you allow them to travel 5 blocks before you stop them to check and see whether or not you had a gun? I've done gun stops in New York. I've stopped guys who were going to perform an armed robbery, my partner and I. We didn't wait and allow them to get wherever they were going to shoot whoever they were going to shoot. We had to find the location, and we picked the location as they were moving where we could do that stop safely in case we got into a shootout with these guys so that innocent people wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. Now, they did turn a corner. They went into a block. There were no people on the block, and that's where we took them. Recovered the guns and everything, no problem. So you don't allow somebody to go 5 blocks, and you're in a car, and they're walking, and now you're saying that you believe he had a gun. It doesn't add up. And then they went in, they banged on the back door of the house, a neighbor let them in, the tenant on the first floor let them in. They went through his apartment into the hallway, and then went up to the second floor. Now, the tenant on the first floor could allow them access into his apartment, but they still didn't have the legal right to go up the stairs and kick in the door, which is what they did. So his grandmother was there, his little brother was there, and Ramarley is at the bathroom door, and he backs up into the bathroom, and the cop runs over and shoots him. He had no legal right being in there. And the
Behind all this, the cop was never indicted.
He was indicted the first time. The judge said there was some problems with the case, and he threw it out and told D.A. Johnson to redo it because it was going to become an issue in trial.
Okay.
Because
now, what was the problem?
I don't remember what the problem was, but it would have given them grounds to have the case dismissed in trial. So the judge says, go back and redo this and get it right. Johnson goes back and comes up with no indictment. So he botches that one up. And then they turn around and do the presentation to the feds. And the feds kick it back yesterday. And they said they're not going to proceed with a civil rights case.
Wasn't Royce Russell involved with it?
Yeah, Royce Russell of Emden and Russell on Madison Avenue.
Who's supposed to come on today?
Yeah, he's tied up. He can't be here. All the attorneys are tied up. Roger Wareham is in federal court.
So we have Tamika Mallory coming on next week.
Okay, very good.
So you know what? We had the officer on last week. His name again?
Edwin Raymond.
Edwin Raymond. And we got a lot of response from that. So I want to run this piece with Tamika for next week and talk a little bit about the Justice League. We went to a press conference out
Bed-Stuy, had Bethany Baptist.
Bethany. Yeah. All right, just run this next roll in. We'll be right back at you. for Tamika next week. The one where Tamika's in the room with the officers. I think that was number 3. There you go.
This conversation before the community and make sure that we, have them understand exactly what's happening. And as you said, to have the other attorneys here to break down the differences in the cases. Oftentimes what we do is talk over the community and they don't necessarily understand what they should be saying or how they can be advocates to support, what you're doing. When you look at the stop and frisk situation, one of the key factors in how we were able to get stop and frisk to end was one of the co-founders of Justice League, actually Marvin Bain, worked along with me while I was at National Action Network, and 1199 and so many to put that stop and frisk march together to Mayor Bloomberg's house on Father's Day, where we had over 50,000 people to come out in the street. So we don't want to underestimate the power of the community and their involvement in this situation, because people did not believe that we were going to get those numbers, and they did not believe that on Father's Day people would come out in that way. We had it right after church and we turned out major numbers, and immediately after that the conversation shifted in the city, because the narrative prior to that had been that people want stop and frisk because it keeps them safe. Right. And upon us being able to show 50,000 plus people saying we don't want it, we were able to shift the conversation. And Mayor, and whoever said that today was so powerful. Was it you? Or it was you that talked about Mayor de Blasio and how he utilized that as an opportunity to become mayor. He was at the forefront of leading the efforts, and particularly that particular march. Of course, he was there. Exactly, you were there. I see, awesome. So with that being said, we don't want to underestimate the power of the community, which is why we need to go back and make sure that we have the community have an opportunity to be a part of the conversation. So we want to start working on that quickly and have something within the next 2 weeks. So we hope we can get a commitment from everybody who came today to be back again. Anybody else have it? Graham, you always.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something quick. I think we just need to exchange information and just find somebody to put it out there so everybody gets the same information, because it should have been probably more of us moving by such a short notice.
So what? Okay, so a couple of things in terms of process. One, we'll get everybody's your contact information and yours from Edwin. What we need from you is to give us somebody.
I had a different version of that where it shows up Gilchrist Experience. But as you see, we were at a press conference where Tamika would actually tied all the knots together because of the stop and frisk program they did at National Action Network. So with her experience and exposure to these activist roles, we're going to have her on next week, and you'll see Tamika here in the studio. So, but this is leading up to what we had on last week with Raymond, Officer Raymond, a good cop out there doing good things and trying to promote, goodwill to his community that he was born. If you saw the show last week, you remember Erwin Raymond, 30-year-old police officer, born and raised in
East Flatbush.
East Flatbush, that's where it was. Let's talk a little bit about that program we had last week.
Yes, Officer
and
Raymond.
Justice League.
Yes, he is 30 years old. He's been in the police department for 8 years. And there is a pattern of production. City agencies are required to generate activity and or revenue. All right? They either provide a service, but likewise, they're expected to bring in some kind of revenue to the city. The New York City Police Department brings in revenue through summonses, through arrests, the fines that are given out in court, and that generates revenue. Unfortunately, the New York City Police Department is costing the city more money through litigations than any other agency in the city. And over the last 10 years, they've cost us over $1 billion in lawsuits. And the numbers would be higher if people were smart enough, and I say smart enough, for a reason, were smart enough not to take a settlement but go through a full litigation. And
You know what? We're going to do something that we don't usually do. We haven't done in a while. We're going to do call-ins. So anybody that has any officer that has something to say about this, I'd love to hear from you. So put the call-in number, and we'll continue our conversation.
Right. So the summonses, the arrests, the fines that come in when people are arrested, that brings, it generates revenue for the city of New York. Traffic agents, they write tickets, parking tickets. That brings in revenue for the city of New York. Now, what has happened is that officers are being told that they have to bring in numbers. We had the issue with stop and frisk and doing the technical terms.
Did you have this when you were officer?
We had quotas in anti-crime. Back in the 70s, we had quotas because crime was off the hook.
Okay.
Everybody in New York had a gun back in the 70s. Crime was off the hook. If you were living and moving around New York, ladies knew that they could not go out of the house with jewelry on. They couldn't wear earrings. Their guys would snatch their earrings out their ears, tear their earlobes, sheepskin coats, gazelle glasses. People were being robbed left and right. There were many days that I made arrests just getting to the subway to go to work. So making an arrest in the 70s, you didn't have to look for it. It was everywhere.
Okay.
Today, they say that crime is down to a level that it hasn't been in more than 40 years. So if crime is down, why are you telling uniformed police officers that they need to bring in a certain number of summonses and arrests? Because the fact is this, and this is police science.
Wasn't that the whole theory behind stop and frisk?
Well, it was more to it than that.
Okay.
But let me explain. The police science says that the uniform officer, his presence, by having the uniform officers visible in the community, it reduces crime.
Right.
And it deters crime.
That's what Officer Raymond was doing.
Right. So people are not so stupid as that they're going to go out and rob the bank and the police officer is standing at the door to the bank.
Or jump the turnstile.
Or jump the turnstile.
Right.
So the visible presence, people feel comfortable when they see police officers around. But in the same sense, they're telling these uniformed guys, you have to bring in so many pieces of activity.
So the officers are hiding in the closet waiting for somebody to jump the turnstile.
The guys in transit are hiding, trying to catch somebody jumping the turnstile. The guys in PD are looking to see, oh, you lit your cigarette in the store as you were coming out, and they're charging you with smoking inside the store. Or you rode your bicycle up onto the sidewalk, and they're going to get you for riding the bicycle on it. And you're the delivery guy riding up to the building. All kinds of stuff. Oh, you didn't have your helmet on.
If there's not enough crime, they produce it?
They have to generate, see? And my feeling has been, if we can have Mayberry RFD, then why don't we do Mayberry RFD? If the police officer can be on his post and speak to the people, speak to the children, know the merchants, and there's no crime in the area, everybody should be happy. He has earned his money for the day.
That's right.
The fact that you're writing summonses and doing these other things doesn't mean that you earned your money.
But it keeps the courts filled.
It keeps the courts filled.
It generates, because that same
revenue.
person that jumped the turnstile doesn't have the fine that he has to pay when he gets to court.
Doesn't have the money to pay.
So there you go.
And Raymond did talk about that.
All right, we got a couple of phone calls. First caller,
Hey,
just
how are you?
identify yourself. Tell us who you are.
Brother Evans calling from Harlem. How you doing?
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good, Mr. Gilchrist and Brother Witherspoon. You got the greatest hair in the world, Mr. Witherspoon.
My hair?
Yeah, you got the greatest hair, brother. I wish I'd never cut my locks off. But anyway,
You're still who you are. Don't worry, brother.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. I'll try to be really quick. But you had a brother on there, the NYPD brother. I think it was last week or something like that.
Yeah, last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really wanted to call in, but that was an awesome show. Put out a lot of information, and my heart goes out to him. And the reaction when you asked him the question, if he would ask other people, young people, to be cops, and just the look on his face, it said it all. But I'll be. What do you think about the recent slashings, the recent violence? Mr. Weatherspoon, is there some type of hit going?
We're not hearing him.
Oh, okay. Are these like hits being ordered from prison or something, or is there a zombie apocalypse? That's one question. And my next question is the hoopla all about Hillary Clinton. What's the fact that all these so-called black people are supporting her and rallying around her after her and her husband have dismantled the black community? I'll hang up.
That's a different show. That's a different show, and we don't. Graham and I probably disagree on that really heavily, but we'll answer the first question. Yeah.
Well, I'm not voting.
I'm
voting for her.
I'm sure you love Hillary Clinton, Mr. Gilchrist.
Why not? Why shouldn't I?
She's a waste of our time. And
that's your opinion, brother.
You know.
I see her as the future.
You, though. I respect you.
Well, we can have it.
I would vote for you.
Well, Hillary is our choice.
And it would be wonderful if Al Sharpton could one time in his life could be the radical to bring that Malcolm X. Maybe if Malcolm X could embody him and say no, if he could just say no one time. I'm just asking one time for him to say no. We're not going to support you. If Black Lives Matter is not supporting her, that should say something to us. We should pay attention. But be well. I'll listen. Be well.
Well, like I always say, there's as many ways of being black as there are black people. And that's why we have so many different opinions. Like, as far as Hillary and I is concerned, I see her as the answer for today. She will continue the legacy of President Obama, which didn't get a break, a shot at, you see all these progressive ideas about infrastructure are showing up now. That's the problem we have in Flint now. If we had to put out that infrastructure, which were jobs for everybody, and when you have a federal contract, they have a quota for black people in there. So there were black jobs in this. Everybody doesn't see how Obama was held up to do anything for America just because of his race. So maybe with Hillary having a white woman and a couple of years younger than Obama's mother, actually. So we'll see the legacy go on. I think we'll see freedom coming in. I see Hillary being president and Bernie being vice president. How's that? That's my forecast.
I'll take Bernie over Hillary.
Well, Bernie's not going to make it.
Yeah, but
that's what we're going to get. Hillary as president and Bernie as vice president.
The history of the Clintons has been very detrimental to black people. Bill Clinton brought in the 3 strikes, you're out. The incarceration rate that we have came from Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton even had a young fella executed in Arkansas. He was mentally ill. He had a mentally ill kid put to death in Arkansas. He said if he didn't do what he had done, he wouldn't be on death row.
So Hillary's paying
that was
for
the mindset. That was
Hillary's
the mindset of a husband.
his sins?
Hillary said to Barack Obama when they were running, "Oh, you remember what happened to Bobby Kennedy? That could happen again." And she was talking about Barack Obama. We know what happened to Bobby Kennedy when he was running for president. He was assassinated.
Hillary said that about him?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. So this woman is no blessing to black people. Neither of them. The fact that they were moving cocaine out of Arkansas, working for Daddy Bush back in the 1980s, and giving us crack cocaine in conjunction with the CIA and all the stuff going down in Latin America, I got no use for these people. None.
Well, you pass this information on to Trump, and he'll use it.
Well, he could read the book. The stuff, like they say, you want to hide something from black people, put it in a book. If the book was published, matter of fact, when the book came out, Compromise, Clinton, Bush, and the CIA, get the book. It came out in the 1980s. Wait, I was just looking at the book yesterday in the house. Compromise, Clinton, Bush, and the CIA. I can't remember the author's name. And if you like reading novels and stories, this is not the book for you because this is historical. The book is about that thick. But Clinton tried to prevent the book from being sold. Because I went to pick it up at Barnes and Noble, and they said you can't get the book. But I had a source. I came into Manhattan and I got the book. Clinton, Bush, and the CIA. It'll show you how Clinton went from being governor of Arkansas to becoming the president of the United States.
Well, maybe we'll do this after Hillary is president.
We'll get back to the slashing later.
All right, next caller, please. Go ahead.
Mr. Gilchrist?
Yes.
I think there's a lot of sloppy work going on. With cops shooting cops. De Blasio, I don't know what planet he's on, him and his wife, what they're thinking, but the city is in pure chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And some fool running down here on 111th Street yesterday, 2nd Avenue, shooting. It came on in the news at the last minute. We don't know whether there was a target or what. You didn't hear anything more about it. This was in the evening, about, I think it was like, what do you call it, 9 o'clock news? They showed this idiot walking 2 dogs on 111th Street and 2nd Avenue, shooting guns. I mean, it's like the Wild Wild West. But I wanted to ask Brother Witherspoon, him being an officer, public PSA, New York City Housing Authority is paying them $75 million. They should have kept paying them. They should have just kept giving them the money, because now their incentive is really gone to help us. I need to know from Mr. Witherspoon. I'm living next door to these people selling this marijuana. I think they breed it, they dry it out, they do all these types of things. The smell is going to keep me killed, because one day I'm going to bang on that door. Sir, I need to know. I thought about maybe I should sue, get a lawyer, because that's what white people do. When the schools fail their kids, they get a lawyer. When something don't work for them, they get a lawyer. I need to know before I get killed, because the smell, I'm right next door to these people, so the smell is like in my house.
Okay.
It comes through the windows, etc. And I'm telling you, Brother Witherspoon, I'm at my wits. And I went to the management office today. They were in there laughing me up.
Okay, here's what you're going to do.
I called the precinct as well. But what's the matter? What's the problem? I just explained to her what the problem was.
All right. What I'd like you to do is leave your number with our people at the desk, and I'm going to call you later.
But Brother Witherspoon, can I get you a way where I can reach you? Naturally, you would think I would say that. Come on, brother, now.
I said leave your
Leave
number.
your number.
Leave your number. They're going to pick you up on the phone in the back. Leave your name and your number. I'm going to call you. I don't want...
Don't
See,
talk about anything
Most
now.
people, there's a couple of things. People are not smoking marijuana.
Something else.
The smell that you're smelling is not marijuana. Young people out here, they think this is marijuana. It's not marijuana.
I grew up in the 70s.
So we know. We know the real smell of marijuana. That's not marijuana.
Okay.
So I'm going to call you after the show.
Okay.
All right? I'm
All
going
right,
to call
leave
you
your
after
number.
the show.
Next
Just
caller.
give them your name and your number, and I'll call you after 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay?
All right?
All right.
All right.
Next caller, please.
Is anybody there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, speak up, please.
Yes, sir. Greetings, brothers. This is Brother Haru calling from home. I would just like to emphasize what de Blasio keeps throwing out this. I believe, and every time someone points out to him what has become the apartheid nature of police since Bratton left Boston and started adhering to this Comstat business and this broken windows thing, and he keeps saying that, and Blasio keeps saying that. And what happens is that when the federal judges or inspectors started looking at the numbers, they were saying that whatever these commanders are being forced and intimidated to do with this POTUS and the rest of this stuff, it is causing a problem, which was recognized by the city council, which is the reason why they're trying to push to reduce a lot of these low-level offenses into something that would not hurt people's future career. Bloomberg and his predecessors damaged hundreds of thousands,
Right.
several hundred thousand people of color of future earnings just by having these records for this small crap put on their file. And you can't have broken windows without going after individuals doing minor stuff. For example, like what you mentioned concerning riding on the bicycles on sidewalks and whatnot. I go through Harlem and Brooklyn and the Bronx, and I see all kinds of people parked in Staten Island and all kinds of places where you see whites doing the same thing, and they're just not putting up for that. One police officer, which just stayed a big news in out of the Village Way, one of the investigators reported, said that the precinct commander told him that if he didn't like the quotas, which meant that you going after all kinds of ridiculous stuff that gets tossed out of court on a regular basis, people understand. If people understand what this organization called PROP is doing, P-R-O-P.
Yes. Right, ganja.
The commander told him, if you didn't like what you're doing, you could go work at McDonald's. This is a direct quote. So, and de Blasio was punked by these individuals, these people who wanted Bloomberg to serve forever, into getting Bratton. As though there was a horde of savages just waiting to take over the city once Bloomberg left. And this broken news crap comes straight out of a eugenics-friendly theory.
Ah, you hit it. You hit it. You hit it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's
Go
what
ahead.
we're working on.
You hit it.
That's what we work on, trying to eliminate this stuff. You saw that from the history of, Raymond from last week. But this has been going on forever, hasn't it?
He mentioned eugenics, and that's something people need to study. It was eugenics that brought Adolf Hitler
That's right.
to his power. It was eugenics which was the theory of white supremacy that came out of the United States. It was eugenics which was financed by Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie, the great philanthropist.
But who's promoting it now? The police union?
No, the police union is a Mickey Mouse aspect of this thing. This is at the top. Eugenics, there were papers done on eugenics in the early 19... The mayor's Mickey Mouse. There were papers written. The eugenics people and Margaret Sanger, who was the founder of what is now called Planned Parenthood. She was a co-sponsor of the eugenics programs. The question was, after the Civil War, what are we going to do with all these black people we got? There was a plan to ship people back to Africa. That failed. The plan was to get rid of all of these people. Eugenics was the promotion of the white Aryan race. In the United States, papers were written, and the founders of the eugenics programs had gone to Germany in the early 1930s.
Illuminati, really.
They had met with Hitler. Hitler stated that he loved the writers and the proponents of the eugenics program in the United States because that's what moved him forward to become the person he was. So the papers that they wrote became his Bible. And keep in mind that Adolf Hitler not only killed Jews, he killed black people as well, because there were blacks who were living in Germany, in the Rhineland, after World War I, and they did not come home. So he sterilized, also sterilization programs. He did that in Germany just as they did it here in the eugenics programs. Women on welfare were sterilized in North Carolina. Young girls who were raped and victimized were sterilized.
The Tuskegee experiment?
Well, that was another program with syphilis. But the brother mentioned eugenics, and you need to go and read up on eugenics.
Yeah, if you go back to the 80s and crack, I mean, that was planned genocide.
That too,
right
and that goes to Bill Clinton. If you get that book Compromised, you will see the history. You will see the history on how Clinton and Bush collaborated. Because to bring the stuff in, it was flown into Mena, Arkansas. Clinton was the governor. The Arkansas State Police were offloading C-130s.
Where was Bush?
Bush was the president of the United States.
Doing that, too.
And they had former CIA agents flying the planes, flying the C-130s. Where does a CIA agent get the money to buy a C-130? A cargo plane.
Well, if you break it down, this is all Illuminati anyway.
But the thing is that
when we talk about Illuminati,
when you talk about all of this, when you talk about voting, when you talk about supporting this person, you need to know the history of these people and what they've been involved in as a detriment to the existence of black people overall.
Well, look at Illuminati in the music business, and we really got something to talk about. Next caller, please. All right?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Which one of these amazing subjects are you on?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, my name is Rob. It's son of MJQ.
Hey, man, what's up?
How you doing?
All right, guys. Listen, just to remind the first caller, first of all, Donald Trump represents the establishment that he's trying to distance himself from.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
And anybody that can't denounce the KKK doesn't deserve a black vote.
There you
Okay?
go.
But we have black people out here, especially those so-called pretty pastors out here with the nice hair and the elaborate robes and the ones that the sisters are trying to get into the first and second pew just to get close to. These people are willing to vote for Trump. Okay? And we need any black person.
Black people voting for Trump?
Yeah.
Black people voting for Trump?
Yeah.
Yes, and you see how our people are roughed up at his rallies. The people that are supposed to be protecting these people are not protecting them adequately.
Right.
And anybody that votes for Trump, any black person that votes for Trump, needs to stop by Ben Carson's office and have his head examined. That's number one. Number two, Brother Witherspoon, last year, shortly after the Eric Garner situation, you broke down a full synopsis of what we have to do to get justice and not take these settlements.
Yep.
And I wish that you would go through that presentation again, because a settlement is not justice.
No.
And our people need to realize that. And I do remember that what you said after your synopsis, that if the courts rule in your favor, they will assess an amount compensation that they felt is deserved. So I wish you would go through those steps, because I know there's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through. But if you really believe in justice for your family, these steps need to be taken.
Let me make one comment on that. You know, one thing is that you have to be close to these families that are going through this in order to suggest these things. I mean, we can all talk about theoretical conditions of what you do when these things happen. But to see the pain and agony these families go through and not to want to go through it any further, I saw it with the Eric Garner family. And if I were them, I wouldn't go any further than they have to go, and not go to Essex pain or whatever.
See, but
still, there's no justice. But eventually, you can get justice. But these legal maneuvers that you want to go through.
You know, we had the Ramarley Graham case. The feds are not going to pick it up.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you. The reason why the feds are not picking up these cases is because everybody has taken a settlement. That's why the feds are not picking up the cases. It's not about you and what you're suffering, because you need to think about the people coming behind you. You're suffering what you're suffering because the people in front of you failed to do what they should have done when they were being victimized in these cases. So we need to wake up and say to ourselves, all right, this is what happened to my loved one. If I have to go to court, if I have to, whatever I have to do, I have to do this for their benefit, for my benefit, and for the benefit of the people that could be victimized next week. You can't take a settlement. See, there has been no finding of fact or wrongdoing. If you take a settlement, it means the police department didn't do anything wrong. It means the city.
No.
When you take a settlement, there is no finding of fact, there is no jury, there is no guilty, there is nothing. You take a settlement, and the paperwork states that there is no wrongdoing by any of the defendants in the case. It's a settlement. It is. Nobody is admitting to any guilt or any wrongdoing.
Eric case?
They took a settlement.
So
there was no prosecution in that case because the DA did not indict Pantaleo and the others.
So what happens
it's
now?
a civil case. Now, when you want to go to the federal level, the reason why the feds are not coming in here, we don't have any lawsuits that have been substantiated with a verdict by a jury to declare that cop is guilty of the crime. This one here that we just had with Liang, that's one. That is a case that was tried in the state court of New York.
Okay.
That is one. Amadou Diallo, he took a settlement. Not Amadou Diallo, I mean.
They went to court.
Not Amadou Diallo. Louima. Louima took a settlement. Most of these people take settlements. All right, and Luima's guy was tried. He was tried by the feds. Luima's guy was tried by the feds.
So he's doing time.
His guy is still doing time. The feds came in on that one. But the reason why...
But he took a settlement, and the feds came in and prosecuted.
They did come in and prosecute
so
on that one
both,
case.
Well,
He got both. He did. The cop was not convicted in state court.
Okay, but they got him in federal court.
He was convicted in federal court. Okay. All right?
So they're doing with Eric Gardner. They took a settlement, and now they're going for a conviction in the federal court.
They're going to go for federal.
Well, what's wrong with that?
The fact is, if you don't have, number one, if you don't vote and you don't have a DA that's going to do the job that the DA is supposed to do, you're getting nowhere. If you take an early settlement in a case with the city, there's no finding of fact. You have to have case law for the feds. When the feds come in and say, we're taking over the Chicago Police Department, we're going in to Missouri and take over that police department, that's because people have filed and litigated cases. A settlement is not a litigation, all right? A litigation is where there has been a definitive finding of fact that you were right and you were wrong. And as those numbers increase, then the feds can say, oh, we have a pattern here. Now we have to come in and do something. We don't have those findings of facts in New York. You have it now with Liang. We have a new ADA in the Bronx. Hopefully she'll do a far better job than Johnson ever did, you know. And Queens, we've seen Brown fail in Queens. We've seen Staten Island fail. And Cy Vance here in New York, he failed with the case with the woman in the hotel that was raped by the guy from the IMF, who went back home to France and was charged with rape in France with another woman.
He got what he deserved. But we know why he got away here. All right? But there's a lot to come, and it's going to be an interesting year. I think Trump, for one, is showing all of us how much racism we have in America.
That's the American way.
That's the American way. So I think all of us, no matter what color you are, come out and vote. Don't sit home and say, I'm not voting for nobody. Come out and vote for anybody but Trump. And Hillary is up for grabs, and no matter what her husband did, I think she's a good person.
Acting in concert.
Well, you know, anyway, Hillary's my girl, all right?
Bernie.
And, Bernie as vice president. I mean, he's coming second best.
And it's a shame you got to settle for whatever.
It's Democrat all the way.
The people that are qualified are not even running.
And vote.
That's the problem.
Just come out and vote, no matter what your shake is on this one. Because without a vote, you know, there'll be no peace. The God in me loves the God in you, and stay tuned again next week for the Gilchrist Experience. And next week we have Tamika Mallory. We'll talk more about the policemen and slashing in the street and whatever. Take care. Power to the people. God bless.
Good night.
Where they have been and what they have been, where they are and what they are. Most important, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must be. The relationship of history to the people is the same as the relationship of a mother to her child.